We're on the Flinders River, about 50 kilometres from the Gulf, and we've found something absolutely amazing. It's an ammonite. What I'm drawing here is actually the fleshy element of the ammonite. Now, the ammonite was a cephalopod. It was similar in many respects to the pearl nautilus which exists today. It had these tentacles and it most likely swam backwards. This element of the animal is fascinating as well. It probably started quite small, and as it grew, these different chambers grew with it. It only existed in probably about this part of its shell. The rest of it used for buoyancy. It was able to float up and down, moving with the currents, and potentially lived as part of a larger group. You can see it's probably got quite large eyes, such as the pearl nautilus today. Now, I'm standing on a piece of limestone that has been exposed as the river has flowed this way over potentially thousands of years. If we look to the banks, we can't see the limestone, so it's only here at the dried up base of this river that we're able to see something as fascinating as this. And because this is one of the first areas to be flooded by the inland sea, it's actually called the Eromanga Sea. It could be at the beginning of the sea, it could be at the end. It's hard to say. There's so much that we don't know. Perhaps if we had the correct scientific tools here with us now, we could give you an exact age. But I want you to think about an environment perhaps similar to the Great Barrier Reef in a way. You can imagine this is a fascinating, coloured, all sorts of multicolours here, corals of all sorts. But there would have been other animals too. There were things such as Kronosaurus queenslandicus, which is a pliosaur, a huge marine reptile similar to a crocodile but with flippers and a lot bigger. There were plesiosaurs, those ones with the long necks and flippers. There were ichthyosaurs. Ichthyosaurs look similar to dolphins. Now, the ammonites were a huge group of animals. They all died off at the end of the Cretaceous period, along with the dinosaurs, when an asteroid collided with the Gulf of Mexico. An interesting thing about that collision is that the Gulf of Mexico was a shallow sea, such as the inland sea in Australia, but when the asteroid hit, it was actually shallow and there was limestone at the base of it, just like this limestone. When the asteroid impacted, powdered limestone went up into the atmosphere, and perhaps if the asteroid had hit a deeper area of the ocean, the extinction wouldn't have occurred with such the violence that it did, and I wouldn't be here talking about the ammonite right now. Ammonites grew to all different sizes, up to the size of tractor tyres. So here at the Flinders River, we're seeing absolute proof that there was an inland sea in Australia, and compared to the history of this planet, it actually only happened yesterday. There were many inland seas in Australia. There was once an inland sea in which, over 400 million years ago, nautiloids the size of semi-trailer trucks used to swim in that kind of ocean. So the sea has come in and out many, many times in the ancient past. This is an ammonite from the Eromanga Sea. We're currently in the Eromanga Basin, and it's a fascinating example of deep time and our ability to look back and imagine an incredible ancient world just as fascinating as the world around us now. They died out with the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period. It's a fascinating creature of a very different time in the inland sea of Australia that we call the Eromanga Sea.